Howdy and welcome to Bamberger Ranch. My name is Aldo Leopold. I'm the director of the Texas A&M Natural Resources Institute, and we're going to continue our Leopold Live series here at Bamberger, continuing to talk about the 5 basic tools introduced by Aldo Leopold, the father of wildlife management. These 5 tools include cow, axe, plow, fire, and gun. And what we hope to do in the upcoming months is show you how those tools can be applied, but with very specific projects and objectives. And so with me is Dr. April Sampson. She's the executive director of Bamberger, and she's going to tell us a little bit about Bamberger and what we hope to cover in the series.
Great. Thank you so much, Roel. We're really excited to have you and your colleagues from the Natural Resources Institute back here at Selah Bamberger Ranch Preserve. And we're excited about continuing our journey into Leopold Live version 2. Like Roel said, we'll be providing more detail and more useful information regarding the 5 tools that Aldo Leopold championed. Here at Selah Bamberger Ranch Preserve, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and our mission is landowner stewardship, outreach, and environmental education. So we have many Central Texas school children that come visit us every year for hands-on science-based environmental education lessons, and we also lead showcase tours and workshops for landowners interested in practicing restoration and good land stewardship. So we're very happy to be partnering with Natural Resources Institute, and we know that you'll benefit a lot from the information that we are going to be talking about during this new version of Leopold Live.
So let's go ahead and get started.
Great.
Welcome back for another segment of Leopold Live. My name is Stephen Fulton. I am the manager for the Bamberger Ranch Preserve, which is our location for filming today. Today I would like to cover a few of the plant species that we find here on the ranch. I've picked a couple of trees, a couple of shrubs, and a couple of grasses. So we're going to start out this morning as I'm standing in this nice colony of little bluestem. We're going to talk about little bluestem. So one of the more beneficial things about little bluestem, we're talking about wildlife, is now that in today's world we really don't have much in the way of wildlife that does a lot of grazing, but we do have a lot of nesting birds that do nest on the ground. An example, bobwhite quail, wild turkeys, and there's a plethora of other sparrows and other songbirds that use these grasses, these clump grasses, as a place for nesting. So it is very important to have these native grasses on your property to provide that habitat for wildlife. Little bluestem, scientific name Schizachrium scoparium, and I probably butchered that, but hey, it's a very difficult scientific name to say. It's one of our native perennial grasses, and in most native grasslands in Texas, especially here in the hill country, it makes up a large percentage, or should make up a large percentage of the coverage of the species in that grassland. Up to about 60% of your grasses in a native grassland should be little bluestem. The seed is dispersed by the wind. It has a nice, think of a dandelion. Everybody knows about dandelion seeds, so think of a dandelion seed that is a puff of breeze comes along and it carries that seed as far as it carries and then drops out, and potentially you have another plant. So little bluestem can be spread far and wide very quickly. It produces a nice tight clump or bunch that again, for ground nesting birds, especially bobwhite quail, which there is a nice covey of quail that does use this area that we're standing in right now. They need that clump grass for nesting habitat. So little bluestem is a fantastic grass. You can purchase seed from pretty much any native grass seed provider. We giving a shout out to Native American Seed, who we use the most to purchase native grass seed for restoration projects. But it's readily available at Native American Seed and other seed producers. As far as grazing, it's pretty good. If you do have livestock, it's a pretty good grass, especially in the growing season. So in spring, early summer, it's a really good quality grazing grass. Welcome back. We're in a different location. Obviously, this is a more forested area versus the grassland area we were in just a few minutes ago. This is a great place to find one of what I think is a very beneficial wildlife small tree or shrub. The possum haw holly is one common name it goes by. Another one is deciduous yaupon. Ilex decidua, I believe is still the scientific name. They do change those now and again. This is a prime example of one of them that you'll find in these bottomland areas. This is not the only place on the ranch we find these. Hopefully, a little bit later, I'll have the opportunity to show you one in a different setting. Benefits of this tree: the leaves are highly sought after browse for our deer and other browsing animals. Down here low, where the deer can reach it, you can see where it's been nibbled on pretty hard. But the part of the tree that has reached above the browse line is doing great, and it actually has a ton of berries. Now this tree will hang on to those berries throughout the winter, and they will turn a nice bright red. So as an ornamental plant around your yard or around your property, it's also it gives you a little bit of that winter color. I have watched mockingbirds defend these trees with their lives. They will fight off much larger birds to keep these berries all theirs for the winter season when the going's kind of tough. It's hard to find that food. So again, characterized by a kind of a smooth bark, a gray mottled smooth bark, and it usually is a very multi-trunked tree or shrub, but you should find a lot of them in these bottomland areas, but they can grow in other areas as well. Okay, back again. Switch locations one more time. Behind me is becoming one of our most abundant understory trees that will become very large trees over time. It's an escarpment black cherry, Prunus serratina variety, eximia. It is endemic to the hill country of Texas, or the Edwards Plateau. Now, in parts of East Texas, you can find the black cherry that goes throughout the southeastern part of the country. Both the black cherry and the escarpment black cherry are very beneficial for wildlife. Mostly, it's the cherries they produce. I mean, they are eaten by everything. Birds love them. Your raccoons love them. Squirrels love them. Everything eats the cherries of the tree. They're even edible for us, and they actually taste pretty good when they're made into jams or jellies or good old cherry pie. Anyway, so just to show you some characteristics of the tree, the leaf has a serrate edge to the leaf. I chose this one. I will show you here in just a little bit later. I'll show you an adult tree because they look very different from a young tree like this that has that very much a fruit looking type bark to it, right? A fruit tree type looking bark to it. Excuse me. Kind of a smooth bark. You see that kind of a banding to it. You can see the lenticels. Again, everything that's indicative of a fruit tree, like you would see with your peach tree you have in your backyard or in your orchard. But a very good tree. The reason why we have so many of them is because it's a good wildlife tree. Now, as far as for browse, the deer will browse on a little bit, but the foliage and the branches and the bark do have toxins in it. So you don't want to make a tea out of this one. Back to the cherry. So we behind me, standing nice and tall and large, is a very much an adult version of an escarpment black cherry. So you can see how the bark is very different as it matures. It becomes more people liken it to an alligator skin, but a very dark gray, almost black bark. So again, very beneficial trees. You can propagate them if you have some that you can get the cherries from. You can propagate them yourself. It's a fairly simple process. You collect the cherries once they're ripe. You want to let them ripen a little further, over ripen, and depulp them, and then so just take off all the flesh. You can do that by just chewing on them if you want to. Just don't bite into the seeds because the seeds also have the toxins. The pulp does not. Anyway, then you put them in a. I usually put them in a Ziploc bag with some moist perlite, and then stick them in the fridge for 60 to 90 days for a period of what's called cold stratification, and then they'll all pop, and then you can put them in your pots, or put them straight in the ground where you want them to grow, and then you should have a nice young cherry tree soon. Also, these guys make fantastic fall color. This year we're kind of hurting because of the drought. They are drought deciduous, but in a usual year when they hold on to their leaves, you will have a very, very bright yellow foliage in the fall. So, nice tree. Get you one. The flowers of this tree are also highly sought after by pollinators. Tiger swallowtail is one that frequents the flowers of the cherry tree when they're flowering in the spring. They also produce quite a bit of nectar. Some honeybees are happy with them, and all your other native bees and butterflies as well. So a great pollinator tree, along with having that super edible and tasty fruit. Now, we do have quite a few cherries here on the property. A lot of them are large like this, and similar to some of our other trees, they're not the longest lived trees. You can probably get 75, 100 years. Now, I know that sounds like a long time, but other trees will live much longer than that. But as one of these trunks fall, if we in any way have access to it, the lumber produced from this is gorgeous. So it also just the wood is highly sought after for building furniture and whatnot. So a very beneficial tree to have around. Okay, back again at another location here on the ranch. This location we're up on top of the top of the hill, where it's kind of a very rocky area, but this shrub behind me, I don't want to get too close because it has some mean thorns. It is called Hawthorne after all. Very beneficial shrub for both browsing, fruit production. In the spring, it'll be covered in white blossoms. So as an ornamental, it definitely has value on your property. It grows. It's pretty hard. It'll grow just about any condition. Now, one thing that and I'll try to show you one later on. But again, the deer really will seek after this one. So we have some on the ranch that I'll try to show you that have been basically bonsai'd by the deer. And the way they get to this point, these were actually protected by a mott of shin oak, and then Mr. Bamberger wanted us to free them up so they'd prosper a little better. I was afraid that the deer were going to come in here and take them out, but so far the deer have left them alone, and they're growing. They're getting bigger and more healthy all the time. As far as propagation, they're kind of hard to propagate. So if you can buy them in a nursery, it's probably the best way to go about it. It takes about a year to get the seeds to sprout, and it's kind of a long drawn out process. But Crataegus texana is the scientific name. This is just the Texas Hawthorne. So yeah, a very good tree to have around. Okay, back again to tell you a little bit more about the Texas Hawthorne. We have another example of that right here in front of me, and as you can see, even though our deer population is well within the means of the range to support them, it's such a candy plant that they will bonsai them every time. If they get the chance, they will turn them into a bonsai tree, and the only way this tree can get bigger from this point is if it leads with the thorns. And as you saw earlier, it has nice long thorns, anywhere from 1 inch to 3 inches long. So it's pretty good defense it has against herbivory. So this tree will eventually make a small tree instead of just a little bonsai bush. Again, the fruit. So not only is the foliage, sought after by browsers, but the fruit is eaten by everything. As a matter of fact, they're edible for us as well. It's in the rose family, so it's kind of like rose hips. That's what I've heard they taste like. I've always, gone to the grocery store for my vegetables, but that's fine. So again, birds, raccoons, varmints, they'll all go after the berries or the fruit that's produced by this tree. Now, very near to me is another plant that I'd like to talk to you about, another grass that's highly beneficial. All right, so just beneath me, try not to trample on too much of it, we have one of our most beneficial grass species here on the ranch. It's called vine mesquite. It's a panicum, so it's related to things like Hall's panicum and switchgrass. So most of the panicums will produce a nice large seed. This one's almost the size of a BB that birds just go nuts over. Your game birds as well as your songbirds. Even the deer will nibble at the inflorescence, the seed heads, as they ripen. It's not so much of a bunch grass like the little bluestem we talked about earlier. It forms more of a carpet or a spread out colony that will cover large areas. Here at this location, we're up on top of the hill where we have these kind of flat areas that actually have some depression to them, so they will hold a little moisture a little longer. So you'll find this grass growing in those areas in relation with white tridents or other species of grass that like those low-lying areas. You will see this growing along an edge of ponds and spillways around lakes, where it does a fantastic job for reducing soil erosion and bank stabilization. So not only is it highly sought after by wildlife, but grazing animals, they will gravitate towards this grass. It's a candy to them. They will eat it. They will eat it down first. So we're lucky to have this species of grass here. If you don't have this species of grass and you want to get it, again, you can buy the seed from seed producers like Native American Seed, Turner Seed Company, Douglas King Seed Company. They all will have this available for purchase. Okay, back again for one more location, one more tree to talk about, and its benefits to wildlife. Now, I'm probably going to get cussed a little bit when this goes out on social media when I talk about how the hackberry is a very beneficial wildlife tree. A lot of people cuss these because they will run fences, but they run fences because birds love the berries, and the birds sit on the fence and poop out the seeds. So as far as wildlife, it ranks up there pretty high. The deer will eat the foliage, especially in the spring when it's fresh growth. The flower, even though it's inconspicuous, so as an ornamental, it's probably not the best one. I have seen bees and butterflies just cover these trees up when they're flowering. And then of course there's the fruit. The fruit is a drupe, very much like a cherry, and actually hackberry comes from the Scottish name Hackberry, also bird cherry. So I guess in the translation we get hackberry out of it. But the seeds they will turn a nice purple color when they're ripe, and they are pretty tasty. Now, however, they are almost all seed. So you just roll them around a little bit, stick them between your cheek and gum, let that good flavor. To me, it's kind of like a prune, which is a plum, right? But it's good flavor. Now, there are 3 different species that we find here on the ranch, and throughout most of Texas, there are 2 species that are predominant, and that's going to be your sugarberry, which is levigata, Celtis levigata, and then you have the netleaf hackberry, which is this one, also known as the western hackberry. Very similar trees. The sugarberry or the levigata will make a much larger tree, and usually are found in riparian zones or areas where there's deeper soil and more moisture. When you get up here on the top where it's kind of rocky and the soil's shallow and it's drier, it's more well drained, you're going to run into mostly the western hackberry. As far as propagating them, you really don't have to. The birds will do that for you. If there's any around, you'll have some hackberries grow up. I suggest protecting them, or at least a few of them, putting a cage around them or a corral around them to keep the deer off them, and so they can become big trees and produce a lot of fruit. They are kind of a short-lived tree. If you get 50 years out of a hackberry, you're doing pretty good. But they do regenerate very, very, very readily and easily. So yeah, it's a good tree. So don't cut them all down. Keep some around for the wild critters. Now, to learn more about trees and shrubs, you can come visit us at the Bamberger Ranch. We do have a tree and shrub workshop coming up towards the end of October. And we also have a grass workshop about the middle of October. So yeah, please come visit us. We'll teach you more about grasses and their benefits for wildlife and trees and shrubs as well. Thank you.
All right, well that was pretty exciting. Thank you for joining our session of Leopold Live. Again, we'd like to thank all those speakers and those that participated with our session. Look for upcoming sessions over the course of the next year, and our hope is to cover these very specific topics that are of interest to landowners and natural resource managers.
That's right. And I'd like to thank once again the Natural Resources Institute for coming out here and helping us provide this valuable information. At Bamberger Ranch Preserve, we hope to have our programming, including our workshops and tours, back up and running by the fall, depending on how things go. So make sure to watch for both the Texas A&M Natural Resources Institute and Bamberger Ranch Preserve on your social media channels, and make sure to check in every once in a while and see what we're up to.